most important basic stuff is the tools. And the best thing for most of the pruning is one of these. This is just a plain little shear. The tricky part is, I mean, this one is great. It's got replaceable blades. It's got a nice little spring in it, replaceable spring. The trouble is they're like 50 bucks.
Yeah.
But for 12 bucks at Harbor Freight, other than the blade color, I defy you to tell the difference.
Yeah.
Well, you're in using it. Has one stayed sharper longer? Or?
This one stays sharper longer. It's got a harder blade. This will wear out pretty quick.
What's the best way to take care of your blades?
Can you replace everything on that green one?
You know, I'll bet you that the parts, I haven't tried to replace anything on this.
What company is it?
El Cheapo Manufacturing. It's probably Chicago something. It's
Green.
It's a Harbor Freight.
George, are you filming? Okay, so no question.
It's been
no, it adds to content.
The only thing on it is it says Taiwan, and that's it.
When George says cut, then you can ask questions.
The trick is, I mean, this one, everything comes apart, everything's replaceable. You might even be able to put these pieces on here, or they might be off by just a little bit. But you know, unless you do something silly like I've done with this in the last 20 years, I've bent the blade by doing things wrong. Like when you cut, you can't do this. You have to cut. And I've bent the blade so that it doesn't meet anymore, and I've had to replace the blade a couple of times.
Felco, the red one?
Yeah.
This is the Felco,
yeah.
This is the Felco 2. They have a whole bunch of different ones. Yeah, like that. They've got one now that has a handle that rotates. And the nice part about this is if you notice when you grip it, your hand will actually slide across the surface. And a big day of pruning, I'll end up with a blister across here, another one across here from just doing this. The one with the rotating handle, when you squeeze, the handle rotates with your hand, so your hand moves this way.
Oh. Nice.
And it doesn't rub, and this rubs.
And you use these shears for your roses, for your fruit trees,
everything.
For everything.
Everything.
What wouldn't you use it on? How big a branch?
Over about a ½ inch, it becomes a problem. And then you go to loppers, which are these. And then you can go bigger. And for the purposes of berry and grapes, you won't really go beyond this. If you get a really old one, you'll have to take a pruning saw to it. Now I'm going to do berries first, and we'll go around and do some berries, and we'll come back and go into grapes because they are quite a bit different. The tools remain the same, so that's not going to change. But you know, the techniques and all that does change. So this is the default one. Now one thing you see a lot of, and it took me a while to find a pair of these. They call these an anvil pruner. They call this a bypass pruner. This cuts this way, this just goes right like that. The big issue between them is when you're cutting with these, if you're the stick in here, it kind of cuts like this. It'd be like you're cutting this way. This chops. If this blade isn't perfectly sharp and level when it squishes down against here, if it's a dull blade, it literally crushes its way through the tissue, and it'll damage the tissue on the bottom side because it's slamming up against this anvil while you're trying to cut through. Plus, this is a whole lot more difficult to sharpen because it has to be sharpened both sides, and it has to be level. This level has to match that level. If it's not, if it's got a gap in there, that's a part of the tissue you're not going to cut, and you're going to tear instead. So these are definitely preferred, and any cheap one of these will work better than any of these.
Yeah.
And how do you keep them from rusting? Or how did you treat that?
Well, that's next. What I do when I finish with these, and I actually keep one of these in the car. Oh, and this
in case.
This is a little Felco holster. And I always, you ever see me around here, I've got this on, and you can see it's actually conformed to the shape of the pruners over the years. You can see they've been in there a while. The first thing I do when I'm finished after a day of pruning, like today, I'll take these home, put them in the sink with hot water, and I have a toothbrush and soap, and I scrub this all out. Then I wipe it out, and I do a lot of this to get the water out of the joint there. And then I've got this neat little sharpener. This is the best thing for somebody that's not coordinated like me. Because what you're supposed to do, multi-sharp.
Well, which one is it in there? Because there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, I'll show you that in a minute. The trick is on this, you're supposed to make this side is flat, and this side, that you can see the shiny part there, is at an angle. It's a little dirty now because I've been pruning one of my examples over here all morning. You cut this at, I think it's about a 60-degree angle, and you're supposed to file that. Okay, I can never get that right. I'm always like the angle's wrong, or I'm making it weird shapes. I've just never been good at that. But this thing, this is really cool. This comes with a couple of little pieces. This little beastie here attaches to the back of the blade. If I can get a screwdriver in there. Doesn't come with a screwdriver. It attaches to the back side of the blade. And then this has got a little grinding. And you pick one of the holes, and for this I want a fairly steep angle. So I put it in that back hole and just do this.
Oh, that's neat.
And you can see,
Get that seed from.
well, and you can see your progress, because you can see now it's really shiny. And you can shine it's all across the back, and you can look if there's any burrs coming back here. Like you can take like a burr off the backside if you want. But be careful, don't grind the backside, because then it'll really make a big ugly mess here. And this, you don't need to do anything in this part. This is the stationary part. But it sharpens really quick, and if you need a steeper angle, you know, you can go even higher, though I can't imagine what you'd need with an angle that deep. And it takes seconds to do. So after having cleaned it,
And that's all. That was enough to sharpen it. what you
yeah,
just
well,
did,
it
that
depends
little
how bad it is. I mean, I actually got one of these to one of my friends that works at the Berkeley, the UC Berkeley Botanical Garden, and hers was so notched out it looked like teeth.
Oh.
So I literally had to take this and just sit there while we were in a meeting, just grind and grind and grind and grind to get down to clean metal all the way. So if you haven't done it very often, it'll take a lot. But once you get it down so that you can see, you've got a clean ribbon of shiny metal all the way around.
What's the name of that product again?
It's called a multi-sharp, and unfortunately I only brought a half a dozen of them, so people taking notes can take notes, and everybody else can probably take one of these. I got it from I used to get it from a nursery in Modesto, and they went out of business. So there's a half a dozen of them here. I got it from an online place. It's called Garden. Well, I have to look at it. I forgot what it is. It's like Garden. It's on the bottom of here. GardenShopOnline.com.
Oh, okay.
And you know, I have two in case I lose this one. I always want to have a second one. So after it's all cleaned and after it's all sharpened, then you can put an oil in. Now I use this. This is, they call it Tri-Flow Super Lubricant. It's actually a what do you call it? Teflon suspension. It's good stuff. It's great stuff. But you know, any 3-in-1 oil works just as good. You know, just whatever, little can of oil, just anything to get some oil on this, because this is now all bare metal. And you know, you want to get something, and I just put a drop on this side and a drop on this side, and do a lot of this till it gets inside. I also tend to put a little bit on the spring, because it squeaks once it starts to dry, and it's like, yeah, that gets old. So just a little bit there. And when you put it away for the season, and I really don't have a season because I use this thing. If you ever see me out here in my gardening grubbies, there's always this on the side, because something always needs a little nip or a little prune. But if you're doing it now and you're going to put it away for a couple of months, take a little oil, spread it around on here, and then put it away. I mean, any kind of oil, use motor oil will work. Just anything to get oil on it.
Olive oil, right?
Oh, olive oil will work. Kind of a waste of olive oil, but you know, if you got anything,
bit.
what you're trying to do is keep moisture away from this. But anytime you use it after you're done, like I said, I do this. Just make sure it's not someplace where you can lose your grip on it, because the water comes out of the joint here. And I keep toweling it down. And I actually have a fan in my bathroom. I lean it up against the fan and let it dry the rest of the way, because I want to keep all of this really dry. And then, you know, as long as it's clean and dry, you can put it away. If you're doing, it's kind of out of the subject of this, but if I'm doing things like an apple or a pear, after I do an apple tree, I'll take alcohol to it and sterilize it, because they have bacterial diseases that go from one to the other, and you know, you can screw up a lot of your garden. Ask anybody who's seen our pears here. We had really bad fire blight this last year.
So you don't use scrubbing bubbles or something like that?
No, just alcohol. 99% alcohol from what used to be longs. Okay.
Let's look at the pear tree again.
Is there any of it left?
Yeah.
That's right. That's about right.
Right.
It's not like an axe. You can over sharpen
How do you
an
figure
axe.
that where you are at that point? You have to like.
Well, after I've sharpened it, well, part of it, yeah, you can test it. Don't do this, and like that. The other thing I do is I'll take a piece of paper and I'll try and cut a piece of paper.
Okay.
And if I can cut newsprint, it's not going to get any sharper.
Okay.
Plus, also, if I'm cutting it like this and the newsprint goes flip and folds down, then I might have a bent blade. And I have bent the blade on these, because I try and trim the new growths off of my bamboo, and I have a habit of doing this, of rotating my hand, and it bends this blade out, and then time for replacement blade. That's why you see there's some extra blades and springs in here, because I've replaced them over the years. Okay, So that's the tool part. Oh, and tie wire, cheap. This comes in handy. We'll see. Okay.